The Reproductive Health Act is about more than pregnancy, abortion, or birth control.
It's about autonomy, privacy, and dignity.
All of which, as a Christian, I see as sacred values.
This bill is about creating and supporting healthy families.
Like my family.
And my family.
And my family.
And my friend's family.
And my neighbors' families.
It's about our ability as individuals to decide the course of our own lives.
We have a growing minority on the Supreme Court that would directly overturn Roe versus Wade.
I remember what happened to women before there was a Roe v. Wade. Women still terminated pregnancies, but they did it in very unsafe ways. And a lot of women died, and they left a lot of children motherless.
We don't want to see women put in that terrible position again, where they are risking their lives. We don't want to see that.
By New York passing this, we'll sort of set the stage for the rest of the country and really be in a place to create progress and change.
Although it was, cutting edge in 1970, New York's law has lagged behind some of the developments in reproductive rights law and the decisions that the Supreme Court issued since 1970.
New York has a long history of protecting a woman's right to make choices about whether or not to have a baby. But our law is really outdated. It's in desperate need of updating so that we can protect all women's right to protect their health and reproductive choices.
The way in which, the law is acted upon on a state level can make all the difference in a woman's life.
In law, each state should protect a woman's right to the full range of reproductive health services. And right now those rights are not clearly stated in New York State, and I shudder to think what will happen.
Our laws are there to protect our freedoms.
And they have to be brought up to date.
Here in New York, the abortion law is part of the penal code. Laws about the practice of medicine ought not be part of the penal code.
An important part of the revised statute is to decriminalize abortion.
It is not a criminal matter.
It's a medical procedure, and it should be regulated the same as other medical procedures.
Everyone's used to doctors being involved with lawsuits. That's something we're all familiar with, but those aren't criminal charges. Criminal charges imply something very different.
There's a chilling effect on providers, and it also just sends a message about what they do.
Abortion isn't a criminal matter.
It's a personal health decision.
It's my personal health decision.
It is my personal health decision.
It's my personal health decision. Here in New York, there's no health exception that guarantees that whenever a woman's health is endangered by a pregnancy, she can terminate it.
There's no way for any law to summarize what condition is uniformly a health risk to the mother, what condition is uniformly a life endangering to a mother. Those things are very difficult to define. Even doctors have a hard time with those kinds of concepts.
Health is a continuum from life to death. And when you put a woman's health at risk, you necessarily put her life at risk. If my health and fertility would be put at risk by alternative procedures, it means my life would be at risk.
Let's have the people who know law focus on law. Let's have the people like myself who know about faith and the Bible focus on that. And let's the people who've actually gone to med school focus on medicine.
The Reproductive Health Act is about, first and foremost, protecting women's health. And that means that only qualified, licensed healthcare providers can perform abortions.
We know that more than 40% of American women will have at least one abortion by the time they enter menopause in this country. Their reasons for having abortions are as varied as you can think of for women, but it's always a health issue because if safe abortion isn't available, then there will be unsafe abortion.
Ultimately, the issue of reproductive rights are a personal or a familial decision, and between you, your family, and between you and your God, and no one else's business, really.
We support the right to create, if, when, and how, a family, and that's sort of the fundamentals of reproductive justice.
In 2003, my husband and I were expecting our third child, and we were really looking forward to having this baby. I had another one of these routine tests that, you know, I've had throughout pregnancy. I called my OBGYN just to get the results, and I fully expected the nurse to tell me everything's fine, it's routine, don't worry about it, when the doctor got on the phone and said, come down to the hospital right away. The baby had a neural tube condition called anencephaly. The baby's brain, a substantial part of it was just missing, just wasn't there. And what was there was not inside the skull. The skull had not closed. And the doctor was pretty clear that nothing could be done, that this would be a baby that likely would be born stillborn, possibly would live hours, weeks, and at the most months. The option that was really before us was doing what they call a DNX, which is what opponents call this partial birth abortion. And at the time I said to my doctor, I said, you know, this procedure, is this what they're seeking to outlaw in Congress? And he said to me that he believed so, which I found horrifying because this was clearly the safest procedure for me. We very much wanted a third child, and we very much wanted to get back to normal and let some time pass and begin again. The next morning I reported to the hospital, and the doctor successfully performed the abortion, and he told me that after a couple of months we could try again to have our baby. And it took a few months of trying, but I became pregnant again, and in August of 2004 I had a beautiful baby girl.
It ought to be your choice, if you're a woman who's pregnant, what you're going to do. And that's what the Reproductive Health Act is all about. It's about women's choice, about their privacy rights, about their dignity, and ultimately about their right to be equal members of our society.
Now, I've always thought that the pro-choice position is the pro-life position. And the language has to be seized back.
The moment the pressure is off is the moment that a change that we may not want comes to pass. So we have to find a way to, what I call it, light a fire underneath the feet of women and the men that they are having sex with, to take this as a matter of personal concern and emergency.
So it is very difficult to get the public to wake up and understand the erosions that have been made.
The fact that the so-called partial birth abortion ban was upheld tells us that there's potentially more to come. Women cannot rely on the Supreme Court for decisions that protect their right to reproductive choice.
It's going to be up to the states to protect women's rights, and there's no more important time than now for that to happen.
Whatever happens on the national level, whatever kind of politicking gets in the way of women's health, here in New York, we care about women's health, and we're going to protect their right to make their own reproductive health care choices, including when they're pregnant, whether to continue or terminate the pregnancy.
Help create the world we want, because I want to protect my privacy.
And my daughter's privacy.
And my wife's privacy.
Because her health and welfare should be under her control.
It's my right.
It's her right.
It's our right.
Act now. Support the Reproductive Health Act.